Before I even ask the first question, do you still get troubled and disturbed or bothered or bored?
Me, Elliot? Troubled, disturbed, bothered, or bored? Don't you know that pop stars are above that? That we live in a cloud of happiness that no one can touch?
In other words, you do get bored talking about...
Exactly.
Fine. It's back now to November of 1963.
It is for you. For me, it's April 1984.
The last time we talked about Beatles and the like,
yes.
You said almost quote, all your memories of that experience are now good ones, and you've erased all the stuff that was upsetting you, and now the thing that you just want to keep in mind is that the music was good, and it's done. That's pretty much where we left it. Is it?
Good. That must have been when I was getting positive. Yeah, I like that, but of course I remember the other stuff too. So I get a bit absolute in my statements, which sometimes get me into deep water and sometimes into the shallow. But both statements are true, and it suits me fine.
Okay, as we enter 1976, as we are now, when you think back to the days of Beatlemania these days, are the thoughts good ones for you, or are they things that you rather not think about?
No, I don't have any preference, you know. If Beatle life is brought to my attention, I think about it, or if it drifts into my head, I don't have any... I can't answer the question. You know? I mean, if it depends which thought, where I am, who brings it up, what angle.
Okay, I guess the best angle was at the very, very beginning for you. I just have a feeling that before the whole world got wind of what the Beatles were all about, you were probably writing your best songs, having the best times, enjoying the shows. It's that era that I'd like to talk about for beginning. London, Hamburg, Liverpool, the roots.
Hamburg is a hat, Elliot.
Sorry, Hamburg.
Yeah.
When you think back to those times, just tell me some of the thoughts that go through your mind, the images that you see when you think of yourself as being 20, 21, 22 years old.
Definitely weren't writing the best songs then. We were just learning the trade. But performance was good. We were a good live band then. I enjoyed that. We worked and played long hours, which was good at that age when you could get work. And in general, it's pretty pleasant memories of struggling along, you know, to go Lord knows where. And but at the time, it didn't seem any more fun than now. You know, it was just you had a job, or you didn't have a job. Look, everything when you look back on it, you realize how good things were, even though at the time you might have thought, well, God, we got to play 6 hours a night. You know, all we get is $2, and you got to take these pills to keep awake, man. It's not right. You know? But looking back on it, it wasn't too bad at all. And no doubt, looking back on this, well, you know, everything looks great through the memory. Somehow they were all deported, and I was left in Hamburg playing alone with another group of musicians. It was quite a shattering experience to be in a foreign country, Hamburg. We were pretty young, you know. I was 20, I think, 21, something. I was left there on my own. I came home on my own, you know, with no money and just carrying amplifiers and guitars. And I thought, you know, is this what I want to do, man? You know, I mean, I was always a sort of poet or a painter. But I thought, is this it? You know, this sort of nightclubs and seedy sort of scenes, you know, and being deported and sort of weird people in the clubs. I mean, it was really sort of, nowadays they call it decadence, but those days it was just in Hamburg, you know, or clubs that groups played at, strip clubs and all the stuff. And I thought hard about, you know, should I continue doing this? But I did. I got back to England, and I didn't tell the others I'd come home for a long time, thinking, is this what I want to do? You know, and then they found out I was home. They were a bit annoyed at me because we could have been working and earning money, but I just really had to think it over.
Do you think you made the right decision?
Every decision's the right decision because it's the only one you make, you know.
Except if you had chosen the other thing, you would have had anonymity with you?
Not necessarily. I might have become famous as something else, you know. I mean, what I'm saying is I probably would have become something. Maybe I wouldn't have been as famous. It's all relative, but I would have... I said this a long time ago, and they always confuse it with arrogance. It's not... I was well known in school, you know? I've been well known all my life. right? It's just a matter of degree. Whether I enjoy it and the pros and cons of the rest of it is a different story, but I just happen to be one of those kind of people. We'd made it in Liverpool. We were making good money for those days. I can't remember what it was, maybe a couple of $100 a week, you'd call it, but enough that you had a little extra, you know, you had it in your back pocket. And Paul and I a relative of mine gave me £100 for my birthday, which I'd never seen that much money in my life. Paul and I just cancelled all the engagements and left for Paris. And George was furious because he needed the money to work, you know. But that was another time when the group was in debate as whether it would exist or not.
In the beginning, somebody said, I don't know if it was you or if it was Paul or someone, that the early songs, the ones that appeared on the very first Beatles albums that were released in America, that those songs were sometimes written in 5 or 10 minutes a song, that a whole album could be done in an evening, one take. True or not true?
Yeah, many songs are written like that still, you know. I mean, if it's purely inspirational, it'll just come, whoop, you know, the whole song will be there. Or even if you sit down, you know, I could write 10 songs, I could write 20 tonight, you know, but what good they are or how, you know, what use they are to man and the beast, I don't know. You know, there's that crazy guy that keeps claiming he makes 20,000 paintings a night, you know, and he just rubs his finger in the paint and touches the paper. Well, anybody can do that. And the album being done in one evening was just a matter of finances, and the record company would not let us stay longer than one night in the studio. The first album was recorded in one long 12-hour session, which the last song to be done was a song called Twist and Shout, which nearly killed me. It was the last song after 12 hours of singing and being in a recording studio for the first time in our lives. And I was always bitterly ashamed of it because I sang it better than that, you know. But now it doesn't bother me. You can hear that I'm just some frantic guy, you know, doing his best. But that was done in 12 hours. But that's because they wouldn't spend any more money, you know. It was the nearest thing to trying to capture us live, you know, that before you change, you go through so many changes. That was the nearest thing to as we might have sounded in Hamburg or Liverpool to the audience, only it's still, you don't get that live atmosphere of the crowd stomping on the beat with you and all that, but it's about the nearest they could get to knowing what we sounded like before we became the clever Beatles, you know. It got pretty boring. No, not after the first couple of months, it took years. But I've said this many times, by the time the Beatles hit America, they no longer could play live very well at all, you know. I mean, Hamburg and Liverpool, we'd been used to playing 6 or 8 hours a day or something like that, you know, or at least nobody played less than 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours for any gig, you know. And by the time we got here, we'd got down to playing 20 minutes in an English theatre, a whole concert. And so that's why the Beatles were famous for doing 50-minute shows. We could speed it up to 15 minutes. You know, over in America, you know, 50,000 people would see us, we'd be off in 15. That was our record. So we got our kicks from seeing how fast we could do the whole show. Sometimes, you know, sometimes we still got into the music. We couldn't play the game anymore. We could see through each other, and therefore we felt uncomfortable because up till then we really believed intensely in what we were doing and the product we put out, and everything had to be just right, and we believed. Suddenly we didn't believe. We couldn't do it anymore. It had come to a point where it was no longer creating magic, and the camera sort of being in the room with us made us aware of that it was a phony situation, that we'd come to a stage where we would be completely phony, no reality left. And that was the end of it. I trust you to know how many.
I believe there were 318.
18 that were 318 published.
Yes, 318 published.
Quite a big stack of them that were never published.
Written or recorded?
Written.
But everything that the four of you have recorded, that the two of you wrote, has indeed been released in one way or another.
Yeah, except for What's the New Mary Jane, which is something, a sort of funny song, crazy song that I wrote. And that was never recorded. There's only me, George, and Yoko on it, actually. We recorded it when we got back from India. It is around on a bootleg. What a shame Mary Jane had a pain at the party. A real crack song. I always wanted to release it. It never got released.
The other night you went out and had dinner with...
Did I?
Paul and Linda McCartney.
Yes.
What's it like these days when you and Yoko and Paul and Linda get together? What's it like for you when you see your old childhood pal, your chum, your best friend of those very important years of your life, And it's true that over the years you've drifted apart. What's it like on these frequent reunions when Paul drops by?
Well, you were there for one of them, weren't you? And it was pretty pleasant, and we had a laugh, you know. You don't have time to get, you know, really deep or anything like that, you know. And it was pretty pleasant. Sometimes it isn't so pleasant. Sometimes it just, you know, that bit when old friends come, you know, depends what mood you're in. The last time, which was about 2 weeks ago, Christmas 75, it was very good, and we all had a good time, and we're glad to see each other. I can't say anything else.
Do you miss the innocence of that time that the two of you spent together before fame and fortune, you know?
I don't miss anything, you know. I have a few regrets, and not many, you know.
I asked Yoko that question just an hour ago about some of the things in her life that she's regretted. Before giving you her answer, tell me about some of the things in your life that you've personally regretted having done.
I think I could have had a better relationship with her ex-husband and the child. I think partly a lot of the reason we can't find them is I could have dealt with it better and less childishly myself. And I hold, you know, I feel responsible, although it's not only my responsibility. You know? And slightly the same thing with my father. So, apart from that, I don't regret. I regret hurting people or anybody in general, but that's too bad. You know, you can't go through life without treading on ants or even bumping into elephants, you know. My father left me when I was a kid. I didn't see him until I made it. And he sort of blackmailed his way into my life through the press. And then I refused to see him, then I finally let him in. I started supporting him, looking after him. Then I went to therapy and sort of remembered how furious I was in the depths of my soul about being left as a child, you know. I mean, I understand people leaving their children because they can't cope, you know, or whatever happens for reasons, but you don't understand when you're feeling your own misery. So I came out of the therapy and told him to get the hell out, you know, and he did get the hell out, and I wish I hadn't really, because you know, everybody has their problems, including wayward fathers, you know. I mean, I'm a bit older now, and I understand the pressure of having children or divorces and reasons why people can't cope with their responsibility. I tried to write to his lawyer, but I didn't get through. I don't really care if I never do get through. You know, I regret it, and if he ever turns up, I will be reasonable again. But those are only two things, you know. I'd like to clear them up before I die, and maybe, you know, that's about all. The Troubadour was one of the great moments of my life, and when they write it in the little silly books of Hollywood that'll finally be written, that'll be one of the little events like Errol Flynn bit Frank Sinatra's mother at the party. I mean, it was a great night, actually. And it's unimportant only to the people that think it's important. I mean, there were some good moments, you know. And it's just that actually a friend called me yesterday, and he's just split with his woman. And I said, although I didn't do it myself, when Yoko and I were apart, she did like a spiritual trip. And his girlfriend is doing a spiritual trip. And he's liable to hit the bottle like I did, you know? And I said, if you can possibly be strong enough, spiritual trip's better, because when we got back together, Yoko's in far better condition than me. You come to the same conclusion. All roads lead to Rome, but it's a hell of a way, you know, crawling around on your hands and knees in the middle of the night, you know. And so that was the advice I gave him, and he called yesterday, and I hope he takes it. He probably won't. He'll probably have to go the hard way, because he's male, you know, and we express ourselves in those ways and violence and all that. And that's how I feel about it. I've been through it. It's unimportant. It's over.
You really went through it. I mean, it became almost legendary. The past year with the drinking, with the Spectre session, with Harry Nilsson, with... I mean, it just goes on and on forever and ever. Do you look back
I just wanted to show the boys that if they want to know how to get really down with it, I can get further. You know, I'm an extremist, right?
But you bounced...
I mean, if they want to play hard knocks, we go right through the wall, you see.
Could you recall...
Macho crap.
Could you recall like a composite picture of an evening during that you could reveal to the people that would give them an idea of what it was like when you were down and out in Hollywood in 1975?
I wasn't down and out, Elliot. I was down and up.
Could you...
No, I couldn't do that. I mean, look, we had the same kind of nights in Liverpool before we ever made it. It's just that when you're famous, they put you in the paper when you tie one on, as you call it. You get in the paper when you're famous, and you're not. If you're just some guy in Idaho goes out with the boys and, breaks a few telephone booths or something, nobody writes about it. You either get arrested or you don't. It's exactly the same as anybody else does it. Only we do it with red carpets in front of us.
You ever get bored of all of this stuff? Of being John Lennon, of being John and Yoko, the constant attention, the fame, the accoutrements that it causes. You ever just wish you could be anonymous, put the ski mask over your head, blend into the crowd, and act independently from everybody else without the whole world being interested in your business, without people like me prying and turning up these things, asking questions? Would it be good if all of this was just not there?
Well, I don't know, I do get bored with it or frustrated with being the famous one or one of the famous ones. But then I did it myself, I can't blame anybody else for the situation. I did it. And I vaguely remember not being famous, as it were. And it was no easier or harder, actually.
It wasn't?
Not much, Sometimes I'd like to be invisible, But maybe I don't try hard enough.
Try harder at being invisible?
Yeah. Maybe in the back I'm really still, like the glamour. I do enjoy being famous too. Sometimes it's great, whoopee, Other times it's a pain in the neck. But I guess everybody's life is like that, that's why I keep saying there's no secret. It doesn't, the only, if you haven't got any food and you're starving or you're ill and you can't pay for the doctor, then it's bad. But anything above that, one car or 12, it's pretty much the same.
The last question is always the same question as it is whenever we end an interview or a discussion about Beatle business. And when I last spoke with you on film and television, I asked you, what do you think the chances would ever be of the reunion? And you said to me, I really couldn't say. And then I said to you, what if you really could say? And then you said, I don't know. And I said, but if you did know, and you said, quote, I don't know, Elliot. It doesn't make that much difference to me, but the wounds have all been healed, and if somebody called me up and said, let's do it again, maybe I do it again. The most important thing is that we just go ahead and make music, unquote. January 1st, 1976. Would you like not to go on tour, not to be the Beatles again, not to make records and lunchboxes and craziness, but how about one glorious night, the big reunion, the closed-circuit reunion in every movie theater in the world, the Beatles back again?
There's obviously people have talked about that. That to me is not interesting because it would only be done for more cash. You might have noticed that I haven't performed for cash since the Beatles stopped. I don't particularly like touring. I don't want to play for money. I'll take the money for making a record because it keeps me in the condition to which I'm accustomed. But I'm not interested in standing on stage and have people give me dollars, And if that was the reason for the Beatles getting together, I'd have to be broke or owe a lot of tax, And then I'd get up and do the bit with the clown's face and run round, Otherwise, it gives me a chill just thinking of it.
Let me approach you from a different door.
Come in, my dear.
What if it was the four reunited for one night for benefit, for $10 million going to some charity or some organization or a concern?
Trouble with charities is they're not very charitable, It's much more complicated than you think. I don't know. It really never enters my head for the four Beatles to play together. And like I said in that interview to you, it's feasible that we could play in a studio just for the sake of playing with somebody who knows, who's played with you for years, But apart from that, there doesn't seem to be any point to it, unless it was somebody would guarantee it would save the planet Earth, then give me a call. From what, I don't know. But
I got to do one more follow-up question on this because it's the one that...
When the Martians get in touch with us, then the Beatles will do a concert.
Forget about the concert for a minute. What if one of...
But cancel that. It might happen. Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone, wherever you may be.
And now, if we could just have a verse so this time goes by.
You must remember this. A kiss is just a kiss. A fly is just a fly.
We'll make this different from all the interviews we've done before because he was not around. No, he wasn't. So I'm going to start with Yoko, and I want you to just talk, if you may, about birth, childbearing, pregnancy, the moment you knew that it was going to be a boy, le boyer. Wherever your mind takes you on that, I'd like you to just talk extemporaneously, okay?
Oh, it's great that it happened, you know. And when it happened, I mean, that I realized that I'm pregnant, I was a bit scared again. I mean, the old me came back, you know. And in the old days, I used to, if I get pregnant, it was always very inconvenient, you know, because I always felt that I'm going to be trapped by the fact that I have a child. It was sort of always inconvenient for my work and all that. But then suddenly I discovered I was different about that. It's all right to have a child, you know. It's not going to be inconvenient. It's not going to destroy my work or whatever.
And all these questions, by the way, are to either of you, so whenever I say something that moves you, just hop in.
Oh, you mean... Oh.
Yeah, you too. Did you have a preference, either of you, male or female?
We were hoping for a bisexual.
No, you weren't.
No.
Did you have a preference?
Oh, yes, remember.
Well, I was sort of hoping for a little girl in a way. But I don't know whether I was hoping for a little girl because I didn't want to hope for a little boy, or going through all the woman's liberation, you know, macho, and I don't know what I felt actually about it. I thought of both and I would have welcomed either.
Same.
Well, yes, in a way, I was hoping for a daughter. Because
But I was very glad when it turned out to be a boy anyway, you know what I mean?
Well, yes, well, John thought, well, either sex, really, you know. We were hoping for a healthy child, you know. We were very anxious to have a healthy child. And, of course, you know, we were brainwashed by these people, you know, constantly talking about, well, the 60s flower children, you know, they went through so many things, and it's very difficult for them to have a healthy child, you know, that one. Delicate question.
Turned out to be BS.
Is that legitimate, that they instilled fears in you, that because in the past the two of you have used different drugs, that it might
I mean, many doctors in Europe and America gave us a lot of garbage about the way we lived, also the fact of Yoko's age, and they instill so much fear in you, you don't ever think you could possibly have a child, you know? And then you start to realize, oh, yes, now if I did this to myself in 1965, but for the last 2 years I've done this, I probably repaired any damage. We're a living, growing organism, you know. I mean, a tree can be down to its last legs if you forget in the house, a plant, you know, you forget to look after it for a bit. And then you can save it with a glass of water, you know, and bring a little touch of brandy even, and it'll come back, and you can, so, you know. And they always put that fear around about LSD, which is all untrue. And marijuana, you know, they're still putting it around that LSD, you'll jump out the window. You'll jump out the window if you're in the army, and the army give it you without telling you, you know, and they drive you crazy, you know.
We should quickly insert that perhaps the final chapter on the subject of LSD and its impact upon social action has not yet been written, and I'm sure we're all open-minded to whatever new information comes down.
We're definitely open-minded about it, especially window pane.
Well, I didn't think it was right to take LSD while I was pregnant.
No, that's
I mean,
true.
that kind of thing. I mean, I was very careful. I took nothing that I thought would be damaging for the baby. I didn't even drink coffee, that's what I mean, you know.
We gave up smoking, in fact.
Right, we gave up smoking. And somehow I felt that it was a seed that's going to grow, and it's just a beautiful feeling I had, you know. And I never had that kind of feeling about childbirth before.
During the 9 months that you were carrying...
18 months.
18 months?
Yes, it was a long time.
During the year and a half that you were carrying Sean, I mean, you've always been an extremely active woman. All the time I've known you and all the time that I've read about you, you've always been involved in one thing or another and going here and going there. And I guess for that 9-month period when you were, I assume you just never left the apartment. Did you not?
No, I mean, we took a walk once in a while. You know.
Now and then we'd going out for dinner or something was a big event, and we'd go and come back. But we spent most of the time, which is cool with us actually. We do most of our best work in bed, and we're not being facetious, you know.
So you did, in fact, we're recording this in your New York apartment, and you did, in fact, spend most of that 9-month period here. What did you do during the 9 months?
Well, mostly meditate or get inside yourself, you know.
Meditate?
Meditate, not especially meditate, but meditating in a sense of really getting into yourself, you know. Well,
I don't know what we did. We had fun.
Yes, we were very happy, actually. It was really thrilling, you know, because, we had to be very careful about the diet used to make this juice.
I was making, and we were into what we were eating.
What juice?
Sort of a combination that Dick Gregory told us about, of sort of B complexes and calciums and nuts and things all in the blender. You know, I used to make that every morning, and that'd be our breakfast. And we just concentrated entirely on having the baby because they'd scared us. I'm glad we did it anyway. It's the best way for the baby and the mother, you know. So the whole 9 months it's a luxury, but we did it, you know. We were having a baby, and we were conscious of that all the time. Because before we'd never been conscious of it, you know? I mean, Yoko had been pregnant before, and we just carried on like normal, you know, like I'm making records and she's sitting around and bopping or doing events or whatever. And we found out that it doesn't work for us, you know. We had to do one thing. We wanted the baby. Having a baby is what we did.
Well, I remember when I had a miscarriage in London, we were making this single called Cold Turkey, and we were producing it in a record studio. Well, we were working from, say, like 8 at night to 4 in the morning or something every night, and, you know, just ignoring the fact that I'm pregnant. And no wonder we had a miscarriage, you know. And I often thought of that. So this time we were very, very careful. And so first of all, I had to sort of think in terms of, am I ready to sit around for 9 months? You know, it's that kind of thing. But then, surprisingly enough, I felt, yes, well, you know, it's not bad to take a year off, you know. And that's how I did it.
What hospital was it?
What was it, New York
Hospital.
When did you go in? And tell me about the experience just prior to the time that you went into delivery.
Oh, well, it suddenly started to be a bit different, you know, and I called my doctor, and he said, well, and he called me back at 10 o'clock at night when we were just relaxing, starting to relax, you know, in bed. And he said, well, I'm afraid you have to come to the hospital now because the result of the test was blah, blah, blah. So I thought, oh, well.
Could we go tomorrow morning? We asked
right. And then I suddenly started to cry because I was so nervous. I don't know if I want to go to the hospital. I mean, that's another thing about hospitals. Sort of these days, you know, people are not really too sure what hospitals are like, you know. Well, I'm not, at least. So I get very worried about it, too. But anyway, so John was consoling me, and we just went to the hospital. And then they had a test, and they found out that, probably it has to be cesarean, that kind of thing. And it was all right. But I didn't know when the baby was coming. The doctor was saying, well, we have to wait. At least we should wait until it starts to kick or whatever, you know, the first sign of the movement and everything. So we were waiting, and then around 10 or 11 o'clock at night on October 8th, he started to really move, you know. The contractions started. And I was thinking, oh, what's going to happen? I'm not ready yet, you know. It's frightening. It is rather, you know.
It's too late. It's too late. You know, we're going upstairs, you know, October the 8th. I'm thinking, oh, Lord, he's going to come on my birthday. Or,
right.
You know.
and they're wheeling us upstairs, and she's saying, I don't think I'm ready. And I'm going, yes, you are. Yes, you are. You know, and he came at 2 o'clock in the morning.
How nervous?
Right on October the 9th.
How nervous were the two of you?
But for those, for those of
nervous.
you who,
I'm going to pick that.
excuse me, for those of you who think we planned it on John's birthday, a lot of people sent us messages saying, oh, trust you two to do it like a bed event where the baby come, you know, we did a cesarean and picked the date. We didn't pick the date. The baby picked the date. And it was magic.
Right, it was really magical. But we were so nervous, you just don't know how, you know, until he came, you know, remember? I mean, after the
last minute, not only La Boya, but we'd been to La Mars, which is one that's pretty famous, much more famous than La Boya, which is sort of natural childbirth thing. Even though in the back of my mind I thought it would be cesarean in the end, just to know about it, you know, because I didn't know about it either. We didn't do it that way because we couldn't. Although our doctor was a very, you know, nice guy and aware of all those things, we had a cesarean, which is a bit different. You know, it is an operation rather than just a natural childbirth. And at the last minute, they don't let me in because it is cesarean, right? I'm saying, but I want to. No, you can't go inside. I'm stuck on the other side of the wall, like in the movies. And then I hear this crying, and I think, I'm still paralyzed, thinking maybe it's another one next door, you know, because it is a factory. They're producing them like babies, like rabbits, you know. But it was, and I was jumping around and swearing at the top of my voice. I was, and they're all looking at me, and I'm swearing and kicking the wall with joy, you know.
Doctor, great, you know, he was saying.
Effing great! I'm shouting, and all the doctors nurses are looking at me, you know, as they go about their normal business.
When did you come out of the anesthesia, and when was the first moment that you were conscious?
No, what is that?
As soon as the baby, you see, that they only put out the bottom half of her with some new drug, you know.
I didn't see you were conscious.
So she was conscious, and then even for a cesarean, and then they took the baby out, showed it to Yoko, you know, and Yoko just goes, "Is that the baby? Good. Take him to John."
And he turned out to be a large baby at birth, didn't he? What was the weight?
We decided to have a large one. We went for a Whopper, you know what I mean?
And you got one. I forgot his weight. Do you recall?
9 pounds.
Because he was born in America, 9 pounds 10 he was when he was born.
That's very large.
They said he was a little overweight because of something to do with Yoko's condition, and but we think it was better anyway. You know, he had a better chance of surviving if he was a bit heavier.
Okay, now a few moments after the baby's born, an hour or two after the baby's born.
Another strange thing doctors say to you all through pregnancy is they keep telling the wife, "You're gaining too much weight," and then they were going on like this for quite a bit. This is a different doctor we changed midstream actually, and we suddenly said, "Well, why?" He says, "Oh, because it's harder to lose afterwards." We said, "Forget about afterwards, you know." If she wants to eat like a pig, let her eat like a pig. You know, the baby's going to get it. But the whole thing is geared to mother must look slim. Immediately she's had the baby, she's got to look like Greta Garbo, you know, and go back to normal life, right? It's incredible.
Well, it's sort of like in now, I understand that the baby should be small, you know, when it's delivered. And
convenient.
It's more convenient, I suppose, for the doctors too, because it probably sort of delivers faster too, you know, and all that. And so it's getting smaller and smaller. 20 years ago, I understand it was like 9 pounds is nothing, you know, 10 pounds, 11 pounds baby. But now, 6 pounds is sort of normal, something like that. But you see, in our case, because the baby came 2 weeks earlier, it was better that he was large. I really remember how the baby looked, you know, sort of, but that's all I remember.
And he looked just like his mother, you know.
That's exactly what he said the first time I said it. When the first time John saw the baby, he said, "Hey, what did he say?"
I was telling all the whatever they are, you know, other people, the nurses and the
orderlies,
whatever they are, all in green suits, you know. I said, "He looks just like his mother. It's amazing." And they're all going, No, they don't look like him. They all look the same. I said, "He looks like his mother, I'm telling you," which he does. He's beautiful.
His eyes, that's all.
He's got his mother's eyes.
You see, what we wanted, I was vaguely wanting my feature with John's sort of, you know, John's sort of a bit narrow here, you know. I think it's very nice, you know, sort of nice oval face he has. So I was thinking his sort of frame and my sort of thing, you know.
Well, you got what you wanted, so it was you
in the
that
middle.
did it. Ah.
And then it happened like that. I mean, he has a nice sort of oval face, a bit longer, but you know, you're a bit longer too. So, and then the coloring is you, isn't it? Definitely. And then his eyes are definitely mine. That's how it worked out, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
The first time when I saw the baby, I was sort of crying and overwhelmed and all that. But anyway, since then, whenever I see the baby, I say, thank you for coming to us, you know. Say, thank you for coming to us. I mean, you're taking a chance. You're very courageous because we're not the most model sort of great parents, probably, but
Oh, we're very good.
well, all right, yes. Well, you know, the
We're
first
just
2 months.
crazy.
Right, just a bit crazy. But it's probably hard for the baby that we are like this. But, well, then, you know, we're not perfect. So
Who is?
Right. So, in a way, you know, I feel very thankful to the baby. Thank you for coming to us, you know.
What do you both recall as being the first things that both of you thought of within the first few hours after Sean's birth?
Well, Mother was...
Well, I was just...
They knocked her out after that because then they had to sew her up, you know, and clean up a few messes from a 10-year-old operation, you know, so that they had to knock her out after the baby, you know.
So it was just...
So there was just me and the nurse in this sort of terrible-looking place called the intensive care unit, you know. But I was just all eyes for the baby, and I just sat all night looking at it, saying, wow, it's incredible, wow, you know, just all night, isn't it? And that's it, you know. And then when I saw her and told her he's fine, you know, because she'd forgotten, she'd been knocked out and everything. And we just cried and had fun, you know. And we've never looked back.
You couldn't believe it. We just kept saying it's a miracle, it's a miracle.
The very first name I thought of was Sean. I've always liked it, and I'm always fascinated by the S-E-A-N spelling. And being a little bit of a Anglo-Irish descent, you know, and so I was always reading about Celts and things like that. And it's an Irish name, and it's Irish for John. And I don't like juniors. You know, I know it's very popular in America, but not in Europe
Not
so
anymore,
much.
is it? Not
It's still
anymore.
pretty popular to have somebody junior, you know, like a replica of yourself, which is
Or the second.
the second, yeah, or the third of the film, which I think is ridiculous, because although one tends to think it's a little John because it's a male, it isn't. It's a combination of John and Yoko which produce something completely and entirely separate from us. It is not a little John Lennon or a little Yoko Ono. It's a Sean. It's itself, you know. He is himself. He's nothing, you know, apart from us giving birth. I called my auntie in England. This is a nice story. It might round it off for us. Okay, because all my family is English except for my father's side, you know, pure, straight English, right? But on my father's father was Irish, you know, and that's not too good in England, as you might guess from the news. But I've always been a bit interested. The name Lennon is Irish, so that's, you know, I'm entitled. So I called my auntie who brought me up, who's pure English. I says, it's a boy. And she says, oh, it's great. And she's happy and screaming on the other end of the phone. And I said, well, I've got one thing to tell you. What is it? I said, do you want to know what I called him? Oh, yes. I said, it's Sean. She goes, oh, my God, John, don't brand him. And she kept saying that over and over. And I said, don't worry, he'll probably be brought up in America or internationally, and it's no harm, you know. But she couldn't believe it.
You did, in fact, give birth to Sean on John's birthday, and
Fantastic.
and also it was your 35th birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And also it was the day that we were told, anyway, that your problems with the immigration people seem to indicate that they're over. As we're recording this tonight, we should indicate that they are not, in fact, over. But it looked that day as if they were, correct?
Well, it either there's a very good con game ongoing, or it is virtually over, because the judges, 2 out of 3 judges, came down on my side, and now it's almost as if we're right back into 1971, and I reapply at the local level for whatever status it is. You know, I've forgotten the words for it, but I call it the green card, sort of covers everything. And we go back to the original judge and the original people on the local New York level, local New York immigration, and ask for whatever we ask for. And what the decision came down was that they have been advised virtually by these judges that in the big court, wherever that was, to give it to me. But I haven't got it in my hands yet, ladies and gentlemen. And when I have it in my hands, then I know I've got it. I've said it many, many times. My name was, through whatever fate, as Dylan says, a simple twist of fate. Got my name on the list of lists, you know. And so my name went in some kind of computer, whether it's human or otherwise, and ever since this machine has been sort of continually trying to bonk me on the head, but it keeps missing because it is a machine, you know, even though it's manifest as human beings. It's just my name got on some list, and that's it. It's like when they send like garbage through the mail all the time, you know, and they keep sending the garbage, and I'm finally trying to get through to the source and say, I don't want to buy this. Do you mind stopping? It's a political decision, no matter what the immigration department keep insisting, and everybody knows it. And it's a decision that might be hard for them, because maybe guys that were in power, even though it's the same party in power, you know, once the bureaucracy starts something, it's pretty hard to unwind that red tape. It just keeps churning on out. And who's going to make the decision? And what is Lennon going to do if they suddenly say, okay, is Lennon going to make a noise, or is some congressman going to stand up and say, well, what were you doing with him in the first place? If there's time still to bother with rock stars, which is what I am, you know.
Well, it's the new year, and last year we accomplished something great, we feel, and it's like a big achievement. It's probably one of the best things that John and Yoko did, you know.
It was our best event.
Right, best event, right. So we feel sort of uplifted, you know, and we want to start the new year with a nice high note, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think it was the perfect end to an almost perfect year, regardless of immigration. All those things are an irritant, like any lawsuit is, but it's all unimportant. The main thing is we're together, we have a baby, and if we can live in America, we'd be happy to. If we can't, it's unfortunate. We'll have to go and live somewhere else.
Right.
That's all. That's the worst that can happen.
And finally,
Elliot.
I wish you all well. Congratulations on the baby. Thank you for being with us today.
You must remember this.
A kiss is just a kiss.
A fly is just a fly.
Right, and we're together.
A rose is a rose.
With John and Yoko in New York City, Elliot Mintz, Earth News Radio.